What up, YouTube? It's your boy JL, and today's date is September 25th. Right now, it's a little bit after 9 o'clock, and I decided to do a thought-provoking blog about a classic debate that came out a few years back between Michael Eric Dyson and Professor Cornel West, moderated by Tavis Malley, concerning the word nigga and today's application of it. To get straight to the point, Cornel West articulated the view that it should not be used at all because of the history attached to it and the implicit permissibility of its usage by groups outside of the black community, while Michael Eric Dyson argued the opposite, which is that the word signifies brotherhood and communion, and its retirement may excuse or negate the history of suffering attached to it. Even though I agree with Cornel West's stance, I think he failed to make his case against Michael Eric Dyson's hypnotic, persuasive, and oratorical style of argument. Cornel West's presentation, in my judgment, was not as animating and assertive as Michael Eric Dyson's. Therefore, he lost the debate, to keep it real. So I decided to engage Michael Eric Dyson's position by refuting most of the key points he articulated in support of his stance on the N-word. So what I did was I took all of his key points and I quoted it verbatim to make sure that I properly represent where he's coming from. So what I'm going to do pretty much is I'm going to read each key point that he made, and then I'm going to break down what he meant, and then I'm going to read my written response to that particular key point. And that's the model that I'm going to go by for this vlog. So, like I said, to get straight to the point, the first point he made goes as follows. Quote, "The N-word grew out of a loving and affirming culture that used it in opposition to how the dominant white culture was using it. So they were trying to beat us down, and black folk were trying to circulate that term in a loving, endearing, and embracing way. You, my nigga, if you don't get no bigger." So they were trying to suggest that the very means by which the dominant culture will insult you, we will now appropriate that term and then spit it right back at you. Circulate it as a term of endearment, love each other. That's what I think about the N-word. Unquote. Now, let me just say, I respect Michael Eric Dyson. I mean, I read a couple of his books before. I've seen a lot of his lectures and debates. And dude got like a doctorate, so obviously he has profound insight, especially in regards to black history. So I really can't understand how he comes up with this simplification, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Because basically he's saying that somehow during history, black people had like a moment of fucking realization to where everybody collectively decided to take the term nigga and flip it around so it can mean something positive, therefore taking the sting out of the word. I mean, that's not reality. That is not how the process of history has taken place. But I'm going to stop there and go ahead and read my response, because I'll fuck around and keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. So it goes like this. Now, I respect Michael Eric Dyson as a great thinker and one of the nation's most persuasive speakers. However, on this particular point, he was overly rhetorical and less realistic in his assessment of its usage. The way he breaks it down, to me, suggests a sudden moment of collective realization within black America, and they or we all at once consciously decided to modify its meaning to better reflect communion. To me, this is fantasy thinking and does not reflect reality at all. Whether one chooses to use the N-word or not, we have to at least be honest in our analysis of its origin and everyday application. Basically, it originated from the Latin as negro, which translates to black inanimate objects, hence inferiority. And historically, its connotation evolved to denote dark-skinned persons as inferior human beings. Now, as we all know, before, during, and even after slavery, the repetition of this pervasive derogatory term was so common that it became internalized by African Americans to the point of us using it amongst ourselves. Even though its general application today does not denote inferiority, this is due to paradigm shifts in Ebonics, not a conscientious decision by a person or special group within Black America. Now what I mean is this. The term was so commonly used in Black households that subsequent younger generations internalized its usage to the point of merely referencing another or fellow Black person. My contention is that it is not and has never been a term of endearment. This is validated by how it is applied on an everyday basis. For example, quote, "Man, that nigga raw, cuz," unquote. Quote, "I beat this nigga's ass," unquote. Quote, "Nigga, is you crazy?" Unquote. Quote, "Fuck you, nigga," unquote, and etc. Even when the word is so-called used as a term of endearment, it is interchangeable with many other Ebonic terms. For example, quote, "That's my nigga," / "homie, ace, or spade," unquote. So basically, Michael Eric Dyson's point concerning its usage is nothing more but a rationalization. Okay, guys, that's the first point. So the second one that I want to quote him on goes like this. Quote, "I still believe, however, that within the context of African American culture where certain people have disallowed the circulation of that term, it's quite necessary to see that we not only have linguistic creativity, we have linguistic malleability. That is, the form of the word can be played with, therefore the content can be challenged. The content that's negative and problematic has to be reinterpreted through the lens of these young people who don't have the virtue of having sat at the feet of Professor West to understand the social context." So right. But what we have to say, as Talib Kweli, who is one of the most conscious rappers, said, when we hear the word nigga on the street, we hear the history of long suffering and struggle that young people have engaged in. True enough, they are cut off from their history, but that word signifies to them something so sweet and enduring, which is transcendent of the negative impact, and therefore comes in a very powerful way to reaffirm their love and camaraderie with one another. So basically, he's saying that while some have decided not to use the term because they understand its derogatory nature, others took it and flipped it around to mean the opposite. But somehow many of the young people today are ignorant of the content and implication of such a term, in which I disagree with, because everyone, including young people, understand the gist of such a term, but out of habit and conditioning uses it. This point was also made by Roland Martin when he and Michael Eric Dyson debated this term on CNN years back. Aside from that, the excuse proposed by academics, which is that there's a difference between nigga and nigger, facilitates its usage among the younger generation as well as other groups. So here's my response to that. Again, this is a rhetorical interpretation that is not reality-based. Granted, it is sometimes used as a term of endearment, but ultimately, it is overwhelmingly used as a noun to refer to a person without regard to inferiority or brotherhood, and the examples I noted earlier validates this fact. What Dr. Michael Eric Dyson omitted is the undeniable fact that today's younger generation refers to other demographics outside of the black community as nigga as well, in the same sense that it is used among each other, scarcely as a term of endearment, in other words. This is not to deny the nefarious history that is intrinsically connected to that term, nor to suggest that it is okay for African Americans or other demographics to employ such a term, but to show how many people, mainly academics, conjure up elaborate excuses to justify a phenomenon that is unsettling yet easily explained.